Hey everyone, James here from Tow Safe. Our new product, the Ultimate Hensely Arrow, has been on the market for a while now, and we've been getting some common questions about installation and proper use. So I'm here today to install an arrow on a camper, show you how I do it, and address those questions about use and installation along the way. First step definitely requires two people, unless you use the method where you hook it up to the stinger and back it up. So what I'm gonna do is lift this up under the ball. You're gonna clip that back.
Sure.
Yep, put it down. So all set and good. The next step is to get the frame brackets and the struts lined up. In order to do that, you want to have the white alignment tabs straight in the middle here. So what I like to do is attach the struts to the main unit first, making sure beforehand that the struts are both even length. Most often when you do the frame bracket install, you have to remove the gas bottle. Sometimes it's necessary to actually move the entire gas bottle tray a little forward or back, depending on where the frame brackets want to be. In this case, we're all lined up and ready to go. So what I do is I use the Ubolts to hold the frame bracket in position while you get the struts lined up. In just a second, I'm going to show you the proper orientation of the struts. So the first few units that went out didn't actually include this little strut spacer, but we found it's helpful. It's not always necessary, but it's helpful in certain cases. In certain alignments of the struts, the spacer will prevent the strut from shifting back and forth on the frame bracket. And then when you're putting the frame brackets on, again, you've already made sure that both struts are of the same length. When you start, I just use the U-bolts to hold the frame bracket in place while you're getting everything aligned. You don't have to actually bolt them down. This just gives you the ability to properly position everything, allowing you to get the alignment right. So now I just do the same thing on the other side. When you're looking at proper alignment of the strut, you want it both parallel and level with the frame itself that way, which we're in good shape, so that middle hole is the right hole to use. But if you look the orientation from the top down, like directly down, you can see that the angle here is not matching the angle there. So what we do in this case, we have the spacer on the inside, or excuse me, the outside. What I'm going to do is flip this around so the spacer's on the inside. That'll bring this back part of the strut out and keep us nice and parallel to the frame bracket. So now you can see we have a much better angle relative to the frame with that spacer on the inside versus the outside. So I'll do the same on the other side. You can see that nice parallel to the frame. Exactly what you want. So the next step is to now set the frame brackets, fix them to the frame. So you can see, even though our alignment tabs are correct, the actual whole main unit is shifted. So what I want to do is take those alignment tabs, center it right along the axis of the ball. So now you can see everything's lined up. That makes it even. That tells you where your frame brackets want to be. No measuring needed. The struts kind of set you up for that. I start them all. I start each set of nuts on the U-bolts by hand, but it's quite a long thread. So typically what I'll do is just use a drill, cordless drill, just to set them up and snug them. And then what you have to use is a torque wrench to torque it to the proper torque. Just a note, and I'll note it again, it is not recommended and actually would void the warranty if you're using an impact wrench anywhere on the system for installation or adjusting the jacks, which I'll get to in a sec. Impact wrenches are just too strong. They do more damage than good. And the drill isn't meant to tighten anything, it's just getting us in position to be able to use that torque wrench and really know that we've got the correct torque on these U-bolts. So that's all nice and snug on that side. I'm gonna go over and do the other side. So proper location of the U-bolts when mounting the frame brackets. The first one is gonna be outside the brace for the jack mount before the set screw. The second one is going to be through this little triangle behind the jack mount. It's got to go through that little triangle. That helps hold everything in place. Just doing a last minute verification that the main unit is lined up and even, which means the frame brackets are in the right spot. What I'm going to do now is torque down the U-bolts. This 11/16 socket on a torque wrench. I'm going to set this to 45 foot-pounds. I've snugged up the U-bolts using the drill. Again, not an impact wrench. I'm going to go back through now and I'm going to torque each U-bolt to that 45 foot-pounds. Go. Another little tip when you're tightening the U-bolts is not to tighten just one side all the way. You kind of want to go back and forth between the two of them, making sure they're tightening up evenly. Whew, I'm out of breath on that. So the next step is the set screws. Easiest way is a 1/4" hex drive. So the whole key here is you want the U-bolts tightened down, everything's in place. That way the set screws are able to bite into the frame and do their job. So once you've tightened the set screws down and they're in position, you know they're biting into the frame, you're going to use 3/4" wrench. This is what's called a jam nut. So by tightening that jam nut down, it ensures that the set screws can't loosen up. Come on. Now those jam nuts are in place, the set screws aren't going anywhere, and the frame brackets aren't either. You'll actually see the frame bracket kind of bulge out from the frame when you get it right. That's how you know the set screw is really biting into the frame. What you don't want to do, because we've already had some people doing this as a shortcut, is they'll put the set screws in first, jam nut everything down, and then they put the U-bolts on and torque everything together. But that doesn't allow the set screws to bite into the frame. You have to have the U-bolts on and torqued down so the frame brackets are in place before you put the set screws in. All right, so that's the frame brackets. The next step is just to set the struts, which again are the key to the no sway system. The struts are what's keeping the main unit aligned and doing everything to eliminate any chance of sway from crosswinds or semis passing, you name it. But this is what's doing all the work right there. So if you come over here, you can see you got the strut here. You got a left hand and a right hand rod end with matching nuts, matching jam nuts. They will be, the left hand will be denoted with a little pink paint marker. You can also check the jam nut that's the left hand thread will have a little arrow on it pointing in the right direction to spin, and that will differentiate between the left and right rod ends. But essentially, by doing that, you can see I can just freely spin this. So what I'm doing is I'm actually shortening this strut up just ever so slightly to make sure that it's right. Once I get that in place, just getting that in position. You're holding the strut and tightening the jam nut at the same time. And that ensures that that strut's not going to come loose. Yeah, so I'm just kind of going back and forth, making sure that both sides are even. And I'm going to go ahead and jam nut struts in place. Now once you get the struts tightened up, everything's installed, we highly recommend making a test drive, towing your camper, I don't know, maybe 10-20 miles. What's typical in the first test drive is that you might get just a little bit of shift in one or the other of the frame brackets. That's just that set screw kind of finding its home. But what we found is after that first shift, you're going to come back and you're going to just tighten up, even up the struts, tighten up the frame brackets again, and it shouldn't move. It should never move. So now it's the jack install. So another tip on the jack install is you definitely want to look at the installation manual. We have had people install them backward. This creates a lot more leverage and doesn't provide the right geometry for the jacks and the spring bars to work. So you want the jack installed forward of the frame bracket on the side of the tow vehicle. What I'm doing now is just tightening the set screw on the little 51/64 collar. That just holds the jack in place. Another good way to know that you've got the jacks oriented properly is the spring plunger that locks the jack from rotation is pointing forward because it's easiest to access that way. All right, jack install is pretty easy. Now we're going to go with the spring bars. So I've got the spring bar. What you do is you basically push straight up. There's a spring-loaded zerk in there. It pops into a little groove and it's good to go. Prior to that, you are going to want to grease that spring bar, putting it up in there. And then after install, you're going to want to attach your grease gun to this zerk fitting and just fill that entire tube with grease until you start seeing it come out the bottom. It's the best way to do it. You can't over grease it. If you want to see more on how to properly grease the spring bar, there's another video that shows or demonstrates how to do that. I don't know how to say that. I mean, I'm the owner of the company. I push a pencil. I got people to do all this stuff, but I'm just trying to show you how simple it is. So just a little pin and cotter holds the jack onto the spring bar. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Let's see if I can get it better this first try. It's that easy. Just slide it straight up in there. Spring bars installed, jacks installed. I'm gonna do is consult my handy dandy install manual. Make sure that I've got the jacks mounted to the spring bars in the proper location. There are a couple of different settings of that attachment just to make sure we can accommodate different trailer configurations. But yeah, I'll show you here. Essentially what you want is 3 holes showing. You can raise this up further. If you're having trouble getting full tension on the spring bars, you can raise it up a little bit. But this is the basic setting that seems to be the best and is recommended in typical applications. All right, welcome back. Further proof that I don't work with tools very often. Normal Joe. Some point during the install, we flung the coupler latch pin into outer space. Just spent the last 15 minutes looking for it. Who knows? But we do have our trusty master lock that ensures that you can lock that coupler latch. Nobody can come up and just undo your pin and walk away with your stuff. So we're back in business. I guess what I wanted to do is give an overview of what we've done so far. We have mounted the main unit to the coupler ball. Again, locked out the coupler latch with a master lock. We have installed the frame brackets and the strut bars, both sides. U-bolts torqued down to 45 foot-pounds. Jacks installed, 1, 2, 3 holes showing on the typical install. Spring bar attached to the jacks. Jacks greased and put up inside the lower unit, both sides. Now we're ready to continue with the install. The last 2 things that we're going to do here in terms of the install before we get into the hooking and unhooking is, because the Arrow, this main unit, is a bit longer, you need to extend your safety chains as well as your 7-way plug. So the next step I'm going to do here, doesn't take too much time, is to uninstall the clamp or the hooks, add safety chains and the 7-way. That's 1 chain extension. That's how easy it is. Again, removing the hook from the original safety chain, putting in the new extension. This actually comes with it. So the extension chains and the 7-way are included with the install kit. No additional charge. Two extensions installed. The other thing that's often necessary is to extend the lead from your emergency brake line if there is a separation and the safety chain's getting engaged. But we do also include a little length of wire to extend that back. I've already done that though. Next is simply, that gives you the extra 1 foot or so that you need to get back to your original power. As far as I can tell right now, we're ready to start the hookup. So I don't know if you can see on camera, but essentially this jack and this jack are not the same height. So it's got, the whole unit is tilted to the side a little bit, right? So for orientation, you're always going to use the jacks to move the unit. And they just turn by hand. For all of these adjustments, you want to have the trailer jack down. A lot of times before people start tensioning the spring bars, they'll have the trailer hooked up to the tow vehicle have the tongue jack up, so all of the weight is on the hitch system. It makes it extremely difficult to tension these spring bars, whereas you can see I'm doing it by hand. Just doing that a little bit. It's got me just about level. I'd say that's pretty darn good right there. Now, if you get the camera down, another part of hooking up is that this lower unit will want to tilt like this. And these spring bars, coupled with the jacks, basically adjusting the jacks, will raise or lower the rear end of this lower unit. And that orients the hitch bar box in this direction. It's on an angle, it tilts, right? It doesn't just go up and down, you're gonna get an angle to it. And that's what you're using to adjust if, say, you're not quite on a level piece of concrete from tow vehicle and you actually need to create an angle. That's how you do it. Everything happens with the jack adjustments. So I think that looks pretty good. What we're gonna do is go ahead and install the hitch bar. That's the new, what we call ultimate hitch bar. You can see that's seriously reinforced, guaranteed not to fail. And this is actually a class 5 for my truck. So we actually do sell class 5 versions, or 2.5-inch receivers versus 2-inch receivers, rather than using a sleeve. So I'm gonna put right there and hope I don't lose him again. Holy So there you go, I lifted up the tailgate. There's a missing coupler latch pin. Well, that was 15 minutes wasted. Anyway, the padlock's better. Wow. Yeah, so essentially what I'm doing is I'm using the backup camera, if you're lucky enough to have one, to just line the hitch bar up as straight as I can with the Arrow main unit. If you're a little bit out of alignment, maybe an inch one way or another, you can actually adjust the main unit by hand to get everything lined back up, and I'll show that in a second. So if you look top down, I've actually purposely misaligned it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I just missed it. But you can see that I'm off center with the hitch bar. So what you do is you just take the lower unit and you're pushing it to the side to line that back up. Now in this case, even though I've got it aligned that way, I'm on a bit of an angle, so I'm gonna back up and reorient again. And then also, if you look parallel, that hitch bar is pointing slightly down, whereas this is level, right? So what you do is you're just gonna lower this, try and get that right in the center, best you can. So I think that's pretty well level. That's right in line. It's about midway on the hitch bar box. That should just go right in. So this is perfect. So that first try didn't go in all the way, but you can see how much of a gap I have down here versus none here. I'm pretty good right to left this way, but I can fix that. First thing I'm gonna do is raise up trailer a little bit. Now you can see that gap starting to even out. Yeah, that's it. So that was my bad. I had this thing, one jack was about 2 inches lower than the other, and it was actually tilting this way, and then the crown of the road's tilting that way, so it had the whole hitch box orientation was opposite of the road. That's just my bad. But now, pretty good. So these are what you call OC locks, over center locks. What you're trying to do is, you see how you move that hitch bar further in, engage the... So that's good. That was too easy. So now you've pulled the hitch bar in. You can see how easy those are now to pull back out. So what you're going to do is you're going to turn these out, essentially make them longer. Like to do even turns on both sides. It feels like that's still going to be too easy. That's pretty good. So that one felt really good. That one's still too easy. Still too easy. I'd give it one more turn. So, as a safety measure, what you want to do is kind of go back and forth again. See how that one loosened up? It just keeps pulling the hitch bar farther in. So again, I am going to turn this out to make the rod end longer. That one felt pretty darn good. That one's just not adjusted right. I went out too far. I'm going to turn it in one rotation at a time. So that's good. Now I'm just going to check this side to see if it loosened up at all. And it didn't. So that's a good hook up there. Last step, just to make sure that these don't come open going down the road. So the proper routing of the safety chains is hugely important, because if you route them wrong, you will put side force on the spring bars. And most likely what this will do is break the struts. And there's really nothing in a normal, typical installation that can break these struts. There's no amount of typical side force winds or anything that's going to break these. So the proper routing is both safety chains are going to go between the spring bars and under the main unit. Again, between and under. Another thing that we've had some customers do by mistake or by accident is they don't raise the trailer jack or the tongue jack high enough, and they don't take the pad off. And this does the same thing. You go to turn off the road into a gas station, this gets in the way, your spring bar gets bound on the trailer jack, probably going to break the struts first, because you put so much torque on the whole unit, but you're not allowing anything to rotate or actuate. So hugely important, proper routing of safety chains. Always get that tongue jack or trailer jack as high up as you can, and then remove the foot and ensure that you have clearance so that those spring bars can float freely underneath. So these want to go side to side while you're driving. These are going to rotate back and forth like this. So if you stop them from rotating, something's got to give. I mean, this is heavy duty steel, right? You got to put a lot of force on something like this to actually break this kind of steel. And if you stop it from rotating and you take the leverage, you think of the truck and the camper as lever arms, that is a huge amount of leverage you're putting on it. So the last step, now that we're all hooked up, is to get your proper weight distribution. I just want to show another advantage of the Arrow is that now you get to actually use your tailgate. Before, when I was pulling just off the ball, my tailgate was banging into that just to get it open. So just another small advantage. Right now I'm working on the last step, which is I'm going to tension these spring bars, which is the weight distribution component of the hitch, to get the weight forward of the tailgate for a nice smooth ride. You have 3 little indent marks here, 1, 2, 3. Now, we recommend you getting the jacks pulled all the way up to that bottom line. The reason we have a couple of lines is just to mark, again, not every application exactly the same, but in a typical setup, you want to get these jacks pulled all the way up to that bottom line. You can see they're very loose right now. You're making sure that the tongue jack or trailer jack is down. It's taking the weight off of the system. That's what allows you to just rotate this by hand. So again, this is just a regular cordless drill. You can tighten these by hand and then finish it off with the wrench. If you want to speed things up a little bit, that gets you a lot closer faster, and then you finish it off with the wrench. This is a drill. This is not an impact wrench. An impact wrench most likely will snap that nut off. We've had it happen. It is not the fault of the welding or the steel. It is just simply too much torque, and it's not, the impact wrench is not intended for an application like this. Do not use an impact wrench. So I got that pretty tight. Any tighter and it's gonna start torquing your wrist. So from there, I'm just gonna use this wrench, and I'm gonna keep turning and tensioning these spring bars. So this isn't too hard to turn at all. It just takes time. I'm gonna stop real quick and see how I'm doing. So I'm already past the top line, approaching the middle line here. Now I'm at the middle line, and I'm gonna keep going so I get to that bottom line. But again, it hasn't got any more difficult. Do not use an impact wrench on this. You will break it. So I'm pretty much at that line there. As you drive and you do this more often, you'll get to feel the weight distribution and what works for you in your towing setup. Could be a little more, could be a little less. But as you get better at it, you'll start going down the road and you'll feel, this is too tight, or it needs to be a little less tight. So we just say start off there and see where you need to go from there. Now, once that's tightened up and that's the tension you want, what you're doing is you're just turning that locking pin. You're gonna rotate it until it finds its home. I don't know if you heard that, but it clicks. It's in place. So now that jack is tight, it can't unwind due to vibration because this locking pin's in there. You're good to go. That's the complete setup. You're ready to travel down the road without sway. What I'm doing now is just raising the tongue jack or the trailer jack up as high as I can get it. And what you're looking for is, after these spring bars are tensioned, again down to that bottom line, you want them to be able to pass underneath. So that's all the way up. You can see that there's no way those spring bars, because they're gonna travel back and forth under here. There's no way they're gonna get bound up on that tongue jack. That's a big one. We've had guys do that. Bad things happen, stuff breaks. All right, so that's it. The ultimate arrow's installed. You saw it happen. It took that much time. And I want to remind you that I am the owner of the company, not necessarily a technician, mechanic, somebody that's installing this every day. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse at how easy it is, and make sure that you had the tips, tricks, and advice that you'll need to install it and use it properly. Happy travels.